it wasn't. Next on the agenda is a special order of business. Are there any disclosures? Hearing none, we will proceed. I will read into the record the informal items for the abbreviated plat action summaries dated 10/2/23, 10/23/23, 10/30/23, 11/13/23, 11/27/23, and 1/16 of 2024. Informational items, abbreviated plat action summaries for 10/2/23, 10/23/23, 10/30/23, 11/13/23, 11/27/23, and 1/16/24. May we have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Ms. Sarah Bryan and moved by Mr. Skylar Quinn. Okay. Does anyone wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Are there any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is new business, and I'll read into the record the public hearing process. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meetings, the Board carries over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at a meeting is: 1, after the staff presentation is completed on the public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. A, petitioners, including all his or her representatives, are given 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. B, representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc., are given 5 minutes. And C, individuals are given 3 minutes. Number 3, when your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. 4, any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the board's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 21.03.050A.4.A. Following approval of the written findings of facts and decisions, any party of interest may, within 20 days, file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with Section 21.03.050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the applicant is not the applicant, if the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. All right, may we have staff's presentation in case S12753.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So case S12753, this is a request to remove plat note number 8 from plat 8770 at the Essex Square subdivision addition tract H. The purpose of the petitioner's request is to allow owners to build fences on their property line. Plat note number 8 reads as follows: a 65-foot setback buffer shall be undisturbed along Little Camel Creek. So the petitioner's original request is to modify the plat note to a 45-foot setback buffer, as that would allow property owners to build a fence on their property line. The original plat shows a setback buffer from the thread of existing stream. However, that does not match with the current GIS location of the stream provided by Watershed Management Services. As stated in comments provided by WMS, there is no objection to removing the plat note entirely, as AMC 2107-020B, stream, water body, and wetland protection, requires a 50-foot setback from either side of the stream. That's 25-foot stream side and a 25-foot riparian edge zone setback. So Watershed Management Services confirms removal of the plat note would still allow for protection of the stream through the protective measures in code, and MOA GS analysis shows the south property lines of the parcels are 50 feet or more from the stream. So the property owners can construct fences on their property outside of the stream setback. If a property owner wishes to construct a fence within the 50 feet of the stream, a variance would be needed to be obtained, seeking relief from those protections. And the planning department supports the removal of plat number 8, as current municipal code, as I stated, establishes protections from the streams. So staff analysis, the three criteria must be met for successful removal or modification of a plat note. Staff finds in condition A has been met. The conditions have changed because protections of water courses established, such as stream setbacks, were not previously applied in the municipality of Anchorage at the time of plat and construction in 1987. Plat notes afforded protections in the absence of land use regulations. However, now AMC 2107-020B provides for protection of those streams. The code establishes the stream side zone protection as 50 feet per side for Little Camel Creek. So the need for the plat note has been negated as there is current code. Staff finds condition B has been met. Modification of the plat note will not have a negative effect on neighboring properties. There have been no documented disturbances of the stream. As I stated, the municipal code requires greater protections and specifies the allowed uses within that zone. Removal of the plat note would not reduce protection of the streams or apply less restrictive code to the property. Staff finds condition C has been met. Plat 8770 would continue to meet the approval criteria for subdivisions if plat note number 8 is removed. As I stated, even without the restrictive plat note, streams, water bodies, and wetlands are protected. So with that recommendation, the planning department recommends removal of the plat note, conditions found as A1 and 1A on page 3 of the staff packet. So planning department recommends removal of the plat note. Thank you.
Thank you. May the petitioner, may we have the petitioners present? Please come forward, state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Christina Jones, Christistina, last name Jones. And we concur with the staff's reporting of their recommendations.
Do we have any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, I actually have a question for the staff. I wasn't able to get it in the queue ahead of time. The original request was for request to modify the setback from 65 to 45 feet, but what has come through in a couple different cases here is actually a complete removal of the note. And the question that was asked by the reviewing agencies was to modify it from 65 to 45. So I guess the question that I have is, do you foresee any issues or do you have any concerns with this kind of changing after it went to the reviewing agencies, or is that kind of common practice and okay?
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, yes, it's the planning department's making that recommendation to remove it entirely. As stated, with the stream being further away than the original 87 plat. Plus, it should be noted that Watershed Management Services, the main body that deals with water, they're also recommending okay with removing the whole plat note in its entirety. It should also be noted that we did have two public comments in support of removal of the plat note. Those are found in the supplemental packet, F1A. Did that answer your question, Mr. Jones?
It did, thank you. My second question, as a follow-up, would be, being that Watershed has determined that the creek runs differently, it's shown differently than the plat reflects, would you recommend that that is resurveyed as part of this approval, if it is indeed approved, to ensure that it's shown correctly?
Through the chair, no, we would not recommend that, and the reason why is because for this reason, streams can move, and we now in current times, we don't show the stream thread like that on the plat just for that reason. Is 30, 40 years from now, it could move, and then but that's why this code, we would just refer to the code, because the code can change or keep it as it is, but the code sets that 50 foot wherever that stream is moving. So that's why we prefer to the code protects the stream rather than showing it on a plat.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the petitioner or staff? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Jones. Would you like to save some time for rebuttal?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to now open the hearing to public testimony. Are there any members of the public that wish to come speak on behalf of case S12753? Anyone on the phones? Any final questions to staff or petitioner? Ms. Jones, would you like to care for any rebuttal?
No.
Okay. All right. And at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. What is the will of the body? Okay. I see that the motion has been moved by Mr. Quinn and Mr. Jones. Can you please, who is ever on the phone, mute? Thank you. And, okay. Member, Mr. Quinn, would you please state your motion?
I move in case S12753 to approve the removal of restrictive note number 8 from Plat 87-70 that states, quote, a 65-foot setback buffer shall be undisturbed along Little Campbell Creek, end quote, subject to recording a resolution with the State of Alaska Recorder's Office and provide proof to the Planning Department.
Mr. Quinn, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with staff on this. It seems like the plat note's just a little out of date. The stream is meandered, which is typical. I agree with their analysis of all the criteria being met, and I will be supporting my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Mr. Jones, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Quinn's assessment on that, and would also be aiming to approve this motion. Thank you.
All right, anyone wishing to add any further findings? I'd like to call this to vote, please.
Ms. Wessel, how do you vote?
I approve.
Ms. Pennington?
I approve.
Mr. Young?
Yes, I approve.
Thank you.
Oh, the motion is passed, 7 yes, 0 no's. All right, may we please have the staff presentation in case S12754?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is case S12754, Anchorage South Subdivision, tracks D1A and D1B. The request is for a the request to vacate a 25-foot creek setback easement, 50 feet in total, on each side of the common property line of track D1A and D1B that was dedicated when the Anchorage South subdivision was originally subdivided in 1987 per plat 87-130. The easement is 25 foot wide on each side of the property line for each tract in the middle of the property. If you turn to page 13, that's the actual plat, and then 14, you can see the shaded hatched what they're requesting to vacate, how it just goes down the middle of the property there, in between the lot lines of each tract. So the background on this is on October 2nd, 2020, the Platting Board approved a preliminary plat for the same Anchorage South subdivision to vacate the easement. Approval of the preliminary plat, though, expired on October 2nd of 2022, 2 years later, with no time extension request submitted as required by AMC 2103 200 C7E. So as the plat expired, the owner is before us tonight resubmitting his vacation request. I should note agency and public comments. No municipal reviewing agencies had objection to the proposed vacation. Watershed Management Services concurred that there is no stream present in the location of the platted creek setback easement and is supportive of the easement vacation request. In order to maintain continuity of drainage across the project area for upgrading areas and drainage ways that currently drain onto the subject parcels, Watershed Management Services commented that there are mapped as a drainage way, which is still subject to the standards and requirements of AMC 2107-020, which includes a 10-foot setback and continuity of drainage onto and across the property. The State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities, they stated in their comments no objection to the vacation of the creek setback, provided that existing drainage ways that are being used are protected by those that have drainage rights. So as WMS stated in their comments, the drainage ways are protected by that section of code for streams, drainage ways, and water. So staff analysis, staff finds that condition 1 has been met. While there's no dedicated right-of-way involved, the creek setback easement appears to have been determined by historical property per the original 82-236 plat. Watershed Management Services confirmed there is no stream present and any drainage ways that have protective measures in Anchorage Municipal Code are protected. Therefore, the 50-foot creek setback easement is considered surplus to the current future needs of the public. Staff finds condition 2 has been met. The creek setback easement does not affect any existing or planned right-of-way, as this doesn't really fall under the vacation of platted road right-of-way. Staff finds condition 3 has been met. The creek setback easement is not intended to accommodate any existing or planned public streets and right-of-way orientation. Staff finds condition 4 has been met. The creek setback easement is not intended to accommodate any existing or planned public streets or infrastructure. Staff finds condition 5 has been met. This vacation will not have impact on traffic circulation and is not part of the official streets and highways plan, as well as condition 6, the vacation will not result in realignment of any existing right-of-way and does not impact existing traffic circulation. So with that, staff recommends approval for the vacation of the 25-foot creek setback easement as found on page 4 of the staff packet, condition A. So just to clarify things for tonight, as we're going to hear we've seen public comments that were attached and passed out here for the meeting. This is only for the removal of that 25-foot creek setback easement. There's the municipal code still protects drainage ways and streams. And I'm going to read here, if we look at, it's just found under agenda item F1B supplementary packet number 3. And Kyle Cunningham with Watershed Management Services through Christy Bischofberger, the director there. Kyle answered, he addressed it to Laura, but it really applies to all the comments that we've been seeing. One thing should be noted is there's no development before us tonight. There's no plat. There's no lots or anything like that. This is just removal of that old plat creek setback easement that's on there. And as stated, the current code protects all drainage ways and streams. So we're not vacating or removing any protection rights of a stream. But I'm going to read into the record here Kyle Cunningham's rather lengthy paragraph that he stated. I may paraphrase some of it, but so he states that MOA staff has visited the property several times over the past decade and have determined that the drainage in the area does not meet the MOA's definition of a stream feature. While the area is generally wet with mapped Class B wetlands and pockets of surface water, the drainage features in the vicinity of the recorded creek easement lack the combination of geomorphic, hydrologic, and biological characteristics required to meet MOA's definition of a stream. And then he states the section of code in chapter 2115. The area is more typical of wetland hydrology with high groundwater. Pockets of surface water and incipient channelization present at various places throughout the wetland. So, and then he goes into, if we do see if this property is ever subdivided or any type of development, the area will have to go through wetland permitting through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and meet any requirements that they and the MOA Planning Department may have. And while the drainage feature does not meet the definition of a stream, they do recognize that it generates significant amount of drainage and accepts drainage from surrounding areas such as Forest Drive neighborhood and the O'Malley Road right-of-way. Under MOA development standards, any future development of the area will have to continue receiving the drainage that it traditionally received and will be required to maintain a continuity of drainage across the property / wetland located downstream. So depending on the scope of future development, a stormwater pollution prevention plan will be required, and he addressed some of the questions that were brought up by the public. He wasn't aware of any studies regarding the impact of wells in the area, but that may be required during the permitting process. And then he just thanks for the answers. So as stated, if development does come in, it's going to be subject to, a litany of kind of review through the different agencies and things like that. But that's not why we're here tonight. We're here just to remove that Platte Creek setback easement. And as stated, they classified as a drainage way, and drainage ways are protected with a 10-foot setback, as well as any type of wetlands and streams. So with that, I'll conclude, and you can ask any questions, and the petitioner's representative is here tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Odell. We really appreciate you bringing that additional information from the MOA into this. Any questions for the petitioner, or for the staff, excuse me? Hearing no questions, may we have the petitioner, the Castle Group, Mr. Prendenville, if present. Please come forward, state and spell your name for the record.
I believe tonight it'll be the petitioner's representative with P&D Engineers.
Well, fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bela Kunisova, spelled A-I-L-A-K-U-N-E-S-O-V-A. P&D Engineers concurs with the staff report and recommendation.
Are there any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Jones?
Thank you. I did have one question that came up I'd like to direct to the staff regarding the If approved, the 25-foot setback, would that be completely removed from the plat, or would that be modified to 10-foot to conform to the drainage requirements?
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, so that would be removed from the plat by document. However, like I mentioned earlier, the code is going to protect, it's going to be the code now that protects the drainage way. And it's all the specifications in that 2107-20 section. And any future modifications or anything like that. So in 30 years or 40 years, they decide to rewrite that section and they want to change it to 15 or less, then automatically any drainage ways or stream protection, they did that on the hillside when they rewrote that. The code will change it, and then therefore we don't have to go change every plat in town that might have had something on there like this. Hopefully that answers your question. I can elaborate if needed.
No, that answers it. Appreciate it.
Are there any further questions for the petitioner? Thank you, Ms. Kunsanova. Did I get that right?
Kunisova, sir.
Kunisova, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming you'd like to keep your remaining time for rebuttal if there is any?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Stop. I'd like to now open the hearing to public testimony. If any members of the public wish to come forward and speak to the case S12754, please come forward and state your name and spell it for us, please. Oh, sorry, 1 second here. Please be patient. This is my first time being chair. Oh, would you please turn the mic on? There's a little green button up there. Oh, thank you very much.
Is that better?
That is perfect.
Perfect. Okay, do I need to do my name again? My name is Sarah Cambridge, Sarahcambridge. I represent Alaska Baptist Family Services, Track 2, and I'm trying to think, Lot 3-1, or Block 3, Lot 1, Block 3, Lot 2. So all of those are connected with the property in question. I went through the 2020 acceptance of this easement being removed, and part of it was the drainage easements would be shared, and the concerns that DOT had originally in 2020 would be addressed, and that the information would be shared with neighbors. I've been the director for 4 years. I've never heard of this project. So there has been no communication with the partners or the landowners around this project. The other concern is if the drainage or that easement is removed, that 50 feet, the 25 feet on each side, Block 3, Lot 1, and Block 3, Lot 2 will be impacted because it's at the very end of one of those waterways, and there is no clarification of what's going to happen to that. So with that space, the information is the exact same cut and paste as it was in 2020, because I printed it all out and I just saw all the new stuff. Nothing's been updated. The dates have been changed, and that's been about it. And with our climate, with the amount of population we have, there's a concern. And I looked into Anchorage 2024, the land use map, and that land that he is hoping to have open up is already allotted for medium use property. So it's already allotted for duplexes, single-family homes, and apartments in the new 2040 land. So it's already been allotted for that. So there is concern with that. So that's what I have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Cambridge?
Cool.
Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it.
I have a question if she hasn't already stepped down.
Miss Cambridge is walking right back.
Okay, great, thanks. This is Brandy Pennington, and my concern is the lack of communication. So what you're bringing to the table, so to speak, is important, that you haven't received the appropriate communication. And I'm curious to hear more about that from whichever side, whatever they're going to present.
Is that for me? Or do I respond to
Yes,
that?
that is for you.
So when I took over in 2019 as the executive director, the first time I knew that this property was even being considered was when I got the notice February 3rd in the mail, that blue sheet. And so then I did some background work and I did some research and I got online to figure out that it had already been approved to be allotted to do this, but then it kind of fell through. I'm not quite sure why. So my assumption is that they never followed up with the drainage and the concerns that Department of Transportation had in 2020. And we have record snowfall, and if anybody's been on O'Malley, the road's a disaster, and that center divider isn't helpful whatsoever. So I'm wondering where all of this snow is going to go if we're going to put a housing development back there. Right now, there is a housing development on one side of the hill, and there's a residential adolescent program on the other side of it. So the concern is if you're going to have a high-density population back there, I don't know how you're going to have access, and I don't know where the drainage is going to go. And so that is a really big concern for us. I just wish there was more communication, that this was taking place, or why there was no follow-through on the original suggestions that were made when it was approved.
Thank you.
So I don't know if this has to go into an executive session, but if the appropriate channels haven't been followed, then should we be hearing this?
Ms. Pennington, I do believe Mr. Odell with the staff would like to respond.
Just kind of, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's Ms. Cambridge, is that correct? Okay. And I can answer Ms. Pennington kind of all here at the same time. So yes, I'm glad we can see all these comments, and that's really good. People are looking into this and they're aware, signing up for the e-alerts. But right now, we're just removing that plat note. If there is any future development and any plat, that's obviously going to be a public hearing, and that would be the time for comments, and when we'll be able to see what kind of development is going to take place or proposed, and that's when all the agencies are going to weigh in, traffic, watershed, the state, everything like that, and there will be a public hearing. There'll be notices just like this. We're not to that point yet. We don't even know if there is going to be a development, what the owner has. He may have like a concept. I saw one submittal had something from 2018, but kind of until there's an official preliminary plat submitted to the planning department, it's all kind of speculation. They'll be going to any type of development. They're going to have to do community council meetings, meet with the planning department before they even submit their application. We're not there yet, unfortunately. That may be something that may or may not be happening. But for tonight, we're just here for removal of the creek setback. So yes, it's good to see all this and keep an eye on it. Hopefully, we don't know when it'll happen, but there will be a public process for that.
Okay.
And I guess we should note, you touched on the drainage.
Yeah.
And Kyle did say, I mean, it is MOA rules that MOA development standards, any future development of the area will have to continue receiving the drainage that is traditionally received and will be required to maintain a continuity of drainage across the property. The manner of the drainage conveyance will be determined during the development permitting process. So it's at the time that they start to kind of develop this and go through the permitting. But the developer may not increase the peak runoff from the property under post-development conditions and cannot let it exit the property at a different point or onto another property. So there'll be a whole host of drainage reviews done by the city. You're correct, the state of Alaska did contact us And they worked that out with Watershed Management Services as far as their comments. They're in support of it. They wanted to make sure their drainage ways they had concerns too, and they wanted to make sure their drainage ways were protected. So hopefully that kind of answers everyone's questions. But yeah, as I said, tonight we're not, there's no development in front of us tonight, yet.
Yeah.
This is Brandy again. So I understand what you said, and thank you very much for a more detailed explanation. My concern is that she received appropriate noticing for this meeting. I mean, obviously she's here, but I just want to make sure that it was done properly.
I guess, yes, we mailed mailers within times. Did you get the green mailer in the mail? Is that how you found out?
Yeah, the blue one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were properly noticed. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. So yes, Ms.
Yeah,
Pennington.
thanks for the clarification. All I heard from what I tuned in with her is that she didn't receive, there's been no communication. And I'm like, well, clearly she's here, but maybe it came as a last minute. I just want to make sure that everything was done appropriately, and thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Pennington. Ms. Cambridge, any more thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, can I just say one thing real fast?
Yes.
So in 2020, it said it was suitable for 24-month to resolve the utility easements, which I believe you said were resolved, and then resolve with private development and stay in communication with the partnering properties. So if this has been going on for 4 years, there's still like no communication, especially with block lot 1 and block lot 2, where that drainage could be an issue depending if it's removed.
You're correct. So they had 2 years to either move forward with it or not, and they didn't, and it expired. So we're here tonight. Why they didn't move forward on anything, we're not sure. That I will say that the 2020 case was the same exact thing as this. However, they had applied for a plat in the same. It was just 2 tracks. There wasn't a whole bunch of development. So when that happens, they've submitted the preliminary plat portion. Those are just standard comments that you read that are on every plat. Okay. They weren't going for like any number of lots or anything like that. It was essentially the same exact thing. They were just removing that. They were going to show it on a recorded plat. But in the past 2 years, they did nothing, and then it expired. They could have applied for a time extension. They didn't, so that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah.
And tonight, all they're doing is just asking for the vacation of that. There's no associated plat with it. So that's why you're not seeing those kind of comments.
Yeah.
So what it'll be is that original plat will always be in the records, but there'll be a document recorded vacating this easement.
And without,
Go ahead.
okay. And without the easement on the 25-foot setback on the neighboring properties, it explains what's going to happen to the, if that's not there? That's why, so block 1 and block 2, which I have ownership, or Family Center Services owns block 1 and block 2 on the other side where that waterway ends off of O'Malley. I don't know if you guys...
If we turn to page 13 of the staff package.
Yeah, I have the original 2020, so I'm not sure which one.
I believe your Family Services Center subdivision, track 2.
Yep, that one, and then Bruno Park, sub lot 1, block 3, lot 2, block 3 are both owned, but the waterway goes into that property. So if it gets removed and that setback on 25 feet on both sides, what is the outcome of those 2 additional properties?
As stated, while that is being removed, section 210720, which is the Anchorage Municipal Code for streams and waterway, there will still be a drainage way, as Watershed stated, easement on there.
So it's not going to...
So it reverts to the code, basically. The code protects the drainage ways and streams. and it'll still be protected.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry,
Any further questions for Ms. Cambridge? Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming and testifying tonight. Any other member of the public wish to testify?
J-E-E, McKee, M-C-K-E-E, coming to you, the Assembly, under a couple of different hats. One is a 33-year resident of Bruin Park Subdivision, which is located just off of O'Malley and Forest Drive. Probably spent most of my kids' lives on the property in question, recreationally in the wintertime, walking. In the summer, kids went to Bowman. Bowman built the boardwalk down there, the educational boardwalk that talks about the tundra. It talks about all the flora and fauna that's down there. The picture that is submitted in F1B Packet 3, I think it was submitted late, but that particular photograph of the existing stream bed was impacted most recently by the reconstruction of O'Malley Road, which keeps some drainage from the north side of O'Malley from the wetlands there. And then before that, the golf course installed 2 ponds that water terminates in, which slowed the flow of that stream tremendously, almost draining the creek itself because of the pond, impacting all types of waterfowl habitat that were back there and are still back there, as well as over 13 species of game that I have on trail cam just from the last year alone. I know that we're not in the business of saving everything, because we're a municipality, we need tax money, we need development to get that tax money. I understand that, but the impact already that's happened over the development thus far without vacating any waterways that are there, I've seen over the last 30 years myself the impact of that. And I appreciate the engineers and the reports and the desire for revenue. So don't hear me bad-mouthing everything in the world, but this particular place is a special place, as designated, a drainage to Furrow Creek and all of that, we know, protected kind of thing. Habitat destruction is going to happen, and I happen to be a big fan of it down in that part of the world. Secondly, I represent Alaska Baptist Convention, which is part and partner with Alaska Baptist Family Services, and so we also have adjoining land there, and we, with an easement, a road has been allowed to be built back there, which has caused our property, as well as some of Birchwood's property, to become a swamp. The Castle Group did not put, in my estimation, the proper drainage to drain the property that the road now is on and will be used to connect any development further down the line. So I would just ask you to consider the impact that has already happened to us and to Birchwood as an example of what will happen with further development.
Thank you very much, Mr. McKee. Any members for the petitioner? Yes.
First meeting. So in packet 3, pages 4 and 5, there are photographs where I see water. I see a creek. And in page 12 of F1B, packet F1B, P&D Engineers has submitted a statement. It's the third bullet point down. Visually, there is no creek present. Again, this is perhaps not the biggest point in the world, but there's definitely a creek there. Would you say that it is factually a misstatement to say that there is no creek present?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for petitioner? All right, thank you very much. Oh, not the petitioner. Thank you. Again, first chair meeting for me. Would the representative for, are there anyone else in the public that wish to testify tonight? Any phone testimony?
Hello,
Hello, is this Ms.
Diane
Holmes?
Holmes, speaking for myself.
Yes, this is the Platting Board calling for public testimony in case S12754. Are you testifying as an individual or representing a group?
No, just for myself.
Okay, you'll have 3 minutes to testify, as you know. Please state your full name for the record, and you can begin.
I'm Diane Holmes, and I'm familiar with this area, and I'm sorry that I did not know that it was coming up again. This is a side. Today when I got back from errands, there was a small, actually not a very small, but a large puddle under my feet and my car. And this is not quite breakup. But when it does come, I fear for what is going to happen with this parcel. If there's anything on it, and there isn't yet, they would be totally flooded out. This vacation should not be granted. The Hillside District Plan several years ago had a very forward-thinking clause in it that even was part of Title 21, and that was for 50-foot setbacks on streams. And of course, drainage areas had a much smaller setback, and I think some people are trying to say that this area only needs to have a small setback. It doesn't. It needs full protection. If you look at a map from a few years ago, you can see that wetlands from the northeast to the southwest have been built on. And I don't know how long we're going to keep making these mistakes. Drainage is a super problem all over the city, and especially in areas like this. I really hope that you think very carefully and do not grant this vacation. In fact, 25 feet is probably in the old standard, and 50 feet needs to be imposed. And I hope that you will read my comments that I submitted about a week ago. It's in your packet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Are there any questions for Ms. Holmes? Hearing none, again, thank you very much for calling in tonight. Would the petitioner care to come up for the rebuttal and to answer any questions that we may have?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to point out that the photos of this creek in packet F1B are not of the creek in question. That's no longer a creek. That creek is directly behind the property located at 11100 Forest Drive, as mentioned in the comments by Ms. Laura Hughes. And because you can see the home in the background, that's a totally different creek than the one we're referencing. Additionally, this property is privately owned and it should not be accessed without permission by anyone from the neighborhood. And I'd like to reiterate that Watershed Management has already surveyed the Furrow Creek setback several times and has established per their criteria that there is no creek there.
Again, do I hear any questions for the petitioner? Hearing none. Ms. Kinsova, thank you very much for coming up and representing the case S12754.
Thank you.
I'd like now to close the public hearing. And what is the will of the body? May I have a motion to approve? All right, the motion has been approved and moved by Mr. Quinn and seconded by Mr. Jones. Mr. Quinn, would you care to state your motion?
Thank you, Chair. I move in case S12754 to approve the vacation of a 25-foot creek setback easement, 50 feet total on each side of the common property line of tract D1-A and D1-B dedicated per plat 87-130.
Mr. Quinn, would you also like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to have to agree with staff on this. There's a lot of questions about whether this is a creek, if it's not a creek. Based on this email that I'm seeing here from Kyle Cunningham, I don't think that this decision was made on a whim. It appears that quite a bit of research was put into this. He said it's been visited several times. He gives justification as to why it is not a stream. He makes comments about the area being typical of wetland hydrology with high groundwater. Those wetlands are protected by the Army Corps of Engineers. So there's protections in place as staff noted in their analysis here. There will be protections put into place by AMC 21.03.200 C.7.E. So I think we need to regulate it for what it is. If staff is saying that this is a drainage way, then I think it should be regulated as a drainage way, and it seems the existing easement shouldn't be there. So I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Mr. Jones, would you like to state your motion? Or speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to agree with Mr. Quinn with his summation there. This drainage easement as it is, like you mentioned, is sitting inside of a Zone B wetlands. So any development of it in the future will have to go through a myriad of different approvals. And so although I appreciate those that came and testified and those on the phone as well, again, if more development is to come in the future, we'll be able to revisit it at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else wishing to add comments? All right, with that being said, I would like to have a vote.
Ms. Wessel, how do you vote?
Approve.
Ms. Wessel, how do you vote?
I approve. Come back to her.
Ms. Pennington?
This is Stacy, and I approve. I approve.
Mr. Young?
I approve.
So Ms. Wessel, did you approve?
Yes, I did.
All right, thank you.
The vote has been cast. There are 6 yeses, 1 no, and a motion to approve. The case S12754 has been approved to vacate for the vacation of a 25-foot creek setback easement, 50 feet total, on each side of the common property line of tract D1-A and D1-B, dedicated per plat 87-130. Again, we'd like to thank everyone of the public for coming out tonight. If you have questions in the future, if there are future development plans, I am certain that it'll come up in front of the Platting Board at that time. Thank you very much. And tonight, any more questions or comments from the board? All right.
Zach Young here for the chair.
Yes, Zach. Mr. Young.
As I depart the Platting Board here, I, with permission, would like to just make a couple comments as to my experience here and some things for the future.
Well, thank you, Zach. We'd also like to, Mr. Young, we'd like to also say thank you very much for your service, and this being your last meeting. Again, this is a public service board, and it does take time out of all of our busy schedules, and we do appreciate your efforts that you've spent with us for the last several years.
I really appreciate that, Chair Mormon. That being said, I guess I would just like to speak to some things that I've learned, experienced while being on the board here. And I think one of the most important things is just that we need to change municipal statute, in my personal opinion, to give more ability for owners in order to, make changes within their platting, because we create undue hurdles, in my opinion, around things that should be within the municipal plan, and create a far more bureaucratic process that is in the interest of the community. As Anchorage continues to go through losses of population and a very slow gain on infrastructure, we really need to incentivize individuals and builders to move into the Anchorage area. We're being significantly outpaced by places like the Valley, and I think that Anchorage will come to understand that the overregulation and municipal overreach that we experience on a regular basis, and I've been party to here on the Platting Board, is quite frustrating. The fees and the length of the process that it takes to make relatively simple changes within ownership and within platting is beyond what I believe the municipality's responsibility is. The vast majority of cases that are seen within platting are clear-cut, simple rights of the owner and actually align with the municipal plan. So that being said, obviously we do not have the ability nor the purview to change those kinds of things, but I would encourage involved individuals like myself and other members of this committee to think about proposing changes in the future to streamline processes, not just this platting process, but others, because we really truly need to create more efficiencies within our municipal government. Otherwise, we encourage individuals to develop and invest in other areas that are going to end up with a leg up on us. I think the Matthew Valley is an excellent example of that. So I really appreciate everyone's time and their investment here within the Platting Board. It's been an extremely educational experience. But that being said, it's really come to a clear point for me that we need to change regulation in order to encourage people to invest in our communities. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Young.
you so much, Zach.
All right, well, part of this is I'd also like to welcome our new members to the Anchorage Platting Board. Again, we'd like to welcome Mr. Skylar Quinn and Miss Sarah Catherine Byron and Mr. Patrick Jones to the Platting Board. Welcome, thank you for your commitment and time. And again, anybody from the public, we'd also like to welcome you to apply for a Platting Board position as well. We do need members of the public on all boards at the municipality. And I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn was made by Ms. Sarah Bryan and Mr. Quinn. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.